Hey my little ponies! Today's video is going to be a long one, so thank you in advance for sticking with me. As you've probably seen from the title, we're going to be diving deep into the world of My Little Pony, the special focal point on Generation 5 and how, in my opinion, it negatively impacted the legacy of the previous generations. Let's start with the timeline of its conception. It all started in 1981, when Hasbro introduced a toy called My Pretty Pony, created by Bonnie Zackerly, but in 1983 it transformed into what we know now as My Little Pony, with smaller, more colorful ponies with much better quality brushable hair. This generation brought us beloved characters like Firefly and Applejack and even a human named Megan for our self-insert. There were animated TV specials, a series called My Little Pony and Friends, and even a theatrical movie in 1986. The style leaned more towards realistic horse designs with a blend of magic and adventure. Then Generation 2 launched in 1997, mostly in Europe. The ponies looked slimmer and were more articulated, but unfortunately Generation 2 didn't catch on quite like Generation 1 did. There wasn't much media to support it either, so it's often seen as the forgotten generation amongst fans. Next came Generation 3. Starting in 2003, a year after I was born, these ponies were even more colorful and stylized, mainly targeting very young kids. While it didn't have a full TV series, there were several direct-to-video movies like A Very Minty Christmas and Twinkle Wish Adventure. This generation also brought us characters like Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash, though they were a little different from the versions we know today, especially Rainbow Dash. Now we get into the game changer. Generation 4, also known as Friendship is Magic, is a reboot that was led by Lauren Faust, who had worked on the Powerpuff Girls if you didn't know. It performed in 2010 and ran for 9 seasons and has over 220 episodes, not including Equestria Girls and Pony Life. It also had a full-length theatrical movie in 2017, and that's not even its only one. And finally, we arrive at Generation 5, which debuted with My Little Pony: A New Generation on Netflix of all things in 2021, and this new era is set in the future of the Generation 4 world after magic has mysteriously disappeared and then returns for some reason. I know why, but the new main characters include Sunny Star Scout, Izzy Moonbow, Hitch Trailblazer, Zip Storm, and Pip Petals. The storytelling is much more modern, often touching on social media and influencer ponies. I have to say that G5 bombed so hard that they quit with their original series on Netflix and now continue the series Make Your Mark on short YouTube episodes under Tell Your Tale. Now I'd like to get into a little timeline of the fandom. So let's go back to the 1980s, an era bursting with toy brands like Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Barbie, and into this competitive landscape galloped My Little Pony. Unlike the action-heavy toys aimed at boys, My Little Pony was marketed to young girls. It leaned into themes of kindness, nurturing, magic, and mothering. It was expanding the definition of feminine play beyond just fashion and dolls, encouraging creativity and imagination. It was also the forefront of a brand new strategy, merchandise-driven storytelling. Thanks to relaxed regulations under the Reagan administration, Hasbro and other companies began using cartoons to sell toys directly to kids, and that's where My Little Pony really made its mark, so to speak. With TV specials, a full series, and even a theatrical movie in 1986 as mentioned, and while this wasn't even a box office smash, the film set the stage for franchises like Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake to follow suit. Now moving into the 1990s, a less memorable chapter in the My Little Pony culture, if you will, Generation 2 made a very small splash, mostly due to the fact that it was very heavily advertised in Europe. It had slimmer pony designs, no major media support, and very little, like I said, AdSense in the US. It was almost invisible. Today's collectors, though, admire G2's aesthetics, but it remains the quote-unquote quiet generation of the ponies. It just simply didn't resonate the way that G1 had. In the early 2000s, Hasbro gave it another try with Generation 3. It was brighter, safer, and aimed squarely at young children. It didn't appear on TV, instead it lived through direct-to-DVD releases like A Very Minty Christmas and A Twinkle Wish Adventure. These stories were cheerful and pastel toned, centered on birthdays, friendship, and princess problems, but for many older fans and parents, G3 lacked tension and depth. It felt a little bit sanitized. Still, it had a role to play. The ponies stayed visible in toy aisles, and quietly something new was stirring online. A niche group of collectors and older fans began organizing through forums and early fan sites. Little did Hasbro know this would set the stage for the brand's most radical reinvention yet. Now, in 2010, Friendship is Magic premiered, and it changed everything, to put it lightly. The reboot was helmed by Lauren Faust, and she had a bold vision to create a show for girls that respected its audience with strong characters, rich storytelling, and meaningful themes. And here's the thing, it worked! Characters like Twilight Sparkle, Rainbow Dash, and Fluttershy weren't just cute, they had real personalities, flaws, and growth. The show blended adventure with emotional intelligence, which was very rare for girls' media at the time. But here's the twist, adults loved it too. By season 1, Friendship is Magic was discovered by users on sites like 4chan and YouTube, and what started as irony soon became genuine admiration. Thus, the brony fandom was born, adult men and women drawn to the show's quality, humor, and heart, being bronies or Pegasisters. Now, this was not a small niche at all. It exploded. By 2011, BronyCon was a real convention, and by 2015, it drew over 10,000 fans, which was a lot for the time. The fandom produced everything: fan music, art, games, animation, characters like Button Mash, stories like Snowdrop became part of the fan-made canon. Websites like Equestria Daily and Fanfiction and Derpy Boru became cultural hubs. Developers even made full games like Legends of Equestria, and in many ways, the My Little Pony fandom rivaled even giants like Star Wars and Harry Potter in terms of creativity and fan demand. Beyond the memes and music, something profound was happening. My Little Pony challenged stereotypes, especially about gender and fandom norms. It proved that so-called girl shows could appeal to boys and adults. It proved that animated content could have value across generations. And scholars, if you will, began studying the brony community as a case study in identity, masculinity, and media consumption. For many fans, it became a safe space to express emotion, creativity, and connection. By the time Season 4 ended with the acclaimed Twilight's Kingdom finale, Friendship is Magic had become more than a show. It was a cultural moment on the internet. It pushed animation forward, gave us rise to a fandom that shaped internet culture, and redefined what a girl's toy could mean. My Little Pony was no longer just about ponies. It was about storytelling, community, and changing what we think media can be. Now, one of the things that made Friendship is Magic Generation 4 so special was that it built a world that felt real. Generation 4 had rules, history, and consequences. Magic had a purpose, the princesses had roles, lore was layered and respected, everything from ancient legends to the bonds between ponies felt intentional. But then Generation 5 came along, and it's like all of that was thrown away. Magic, gone, why? The reasons were given aren't really good in my opinion. The show never really explains it. The main 6 icons of a decade-long story are reduced to background relics, a mural here, a trinket there, but there's no substance, there's no heart, and it doesn't feel like a sequel. It feels like a soft reboot pretending to be one. And let's talk about the characters. Generation 4 gave us growth. Twilight Sparkle struggled, learned, and became a leader. Fluttershy found her confidence, Rainbow Dash learned humility, and Starlight Glimmer found redemption. But in Generation 5, character feels more like archetypes. You've got the influencer princess, the quirky unicorn, and the boyish skeptic, just because. They're cute, marketable, sure, but do they grow? Do they struggle? Do they feel real? No, not really. Conflicts get solved with legitimate hashtags, catchphrases, and dance numbers that show how little to no emotional depth that this show currently has. And here's the part that really stings. Generation 4 didn't just survive because of Hasbro. It thrived because of us. The fans, the artists, the animators, the musicians, the storytellers. We kept the magic alive. We built conventions. We created fan work, some of which even rivaled the show itself. We made Equestria feel like a second home. Like, Project Shadowbox and Lullaby for a Princess were arguably almost as recognizable as the show for the time. And now, Generation 5 barely even acknowledges us. No connection to the old lore, no love for the community that carried this franchise through its golden age, just a few Easter eggs thrown in like a wink without a soul. Instead of focusing on storytelling, G5 chases trends. Live stream jokes, hashtags, dance numbers. It feels like a show written by a marketing team, not storytellers. It does not change, it doesn't explore, it just metaphorically scrolls. And worst of all, the message of Friendship is Magic, the idea that kindness, growth, and connection could change the world has been replaced with shallow plots and a divided Equestria with not a good enough explanation. How did ponies learn to hate each other again? Why did harmony break? We never find out, really. It's just used as a setup for easy conflict without any of the emotional or philosophical depth that made Generation 4 matter. So here's the truth. In my opinion, Generation 5 isn't just a disappointment, it's a betrayal. It forgets that My Little Pony wasn't just about rainbows and sparkles. It was about transformation. It was about the belief that friendship could change lives. Getting into my final thoughts. If you would have told 15-year-old me that Generation 5 would have been such a letdown for Generation 4, I would tell you you're probably so wrong, because I genuinely never thought I'd write something like this, just because My Little Pony, of all things, meant something. It wasn't just a cartoon, it was a world, a message, and for many of us, a movement. For some, it was a lifeline. For others, it opened doors to creativity and community and hope. So when Generation 5 was announced, I didn't just have expectations. We all had faith. But what we got wasn't just disappointing. It was disrespectful. Generation 4, Friendship is Magic, wasn't perfect, but it was thoughtful. It had a world with depth, stories with meaning, and characters who changed and grew. Twilight Sparkle wasn't just the smart one. She learned to lead, to stumble, and to succeed. Fluttershy didn't just stay quiet, she found her strength. And the world of Equestria had history. It had lore, and most importantly, it had a moral framework. Magic was tied to harmony, harmony was tied to friendship, and that wasn't just writing, it was philosophy. When Generation 5 came along and hit the reset button, magic was gone, friendship was broken, history was forgotten as if it never mattered. The main six, the heart again of a 10-year story, were reduced to decoration. Their journey, their impact, erased. No payoff, no legacy, just murals and trinkets, and that is not a continuation. That is erasure. Now, to be fair, times change. New generations need their own stories. But don't tell us this is the same Equestria if you've stripped away everything that made it special. Don't slap Twilight's cutie mark on a badge and call it a tribute. And don't pretend to continue the story when you refuse to honor what came before it. And I'm gonna say it again, the truth is Generation 4 didn't thrive because of Hasbro. It thrived because of us, the fans, the artists, the musicians, the writers, the people who built Equestria Daily and again made animations like Snowdrop and Project Shadowbox, filled BrodyCon with love, and built communities around kindness. We kept the magic alive. We were the ones who believed. And what did Generation 5 do? It looked at all of that, turned its back, and metaphorically kicked up litter on us. Instead of honoring the legacy that came before it, Generation 5 focused on chasing trends, having things like dance scenes, hashtags, influencer ponies, characters with no arcs, lore with no roots, conflict without emotional weight, and let's be clear, kids today deserve stories with depth. Generation 5 isn't modern, it's just market tested, and it's hollow. Generation 5 isn't just a letdown, It's a betrayal of everything My Little Pony has stood for. Because friendship is magic taught us something rare, that kindness is strength and that change is possible, and that even in a show of pastel horses we could find honest truths that are applicable to our everyday lives. And when you forget that that was almost the entire purpose of Generation 4, what made it so awesome, when you reduce it all to brand buzzwords and algorithms, you don't just lose the magic, you kill it. We didn't need another toy commercial. I don't even see the Generation 5 toys in toy aisles anymore. And I swear I see more Generation 4 and Generation 3 stuff on shelves to this day than I do for Generation 5. So sincerely, we need Equestria. We're still waiting for it to come back. I'm still waiting for it to come back. We need a story. And I hope that if there is a Generation 6, that they will genuinely take a look at what happened with Generation 5, take a step back and realize that this is not just a toy franchise that has a show attached to it. This is something that means something to other people. But with that being said, that's all I got for you, My Little Ponies. I'm sorry this took so long to get out. I kept re-recording and messing with my script. I made a couple of timelines. If you don't like for anything else, like for the fact that I made a culture timeline and a timeline of conception, because my search history is crazy looking right now. But I will see you guys in my next video, which is going to be another opinion piece. I think right now all I've really released is opinion pieces besides my Celestia video, which is just a timeline of her. I'll link that right up here in the little bingy mabobber right there. Yeah, so check that out if that sounds interesting. But if you have any ideas on anything you guys would like me to comment on within the My Little Pony space, please let me know, because I love getting suggestions and feedback from you guys. Until next time, My Little Ponies, we will see you in the next video. Bye!